There was a middle-aged man among my neighbors who had been practicing martial arts for a very long time. He practiced by striking trees in his front yard every day and would break bricks with his bare hands. But one day, he was found dead in the front yard of his house. What was even more shocking was that he had suffocated to death with his fist stuck in his throat. His jaw was completely dislocated, something that couldn't have happened without compulsion. But there were no traces of someone having done it. The whole neighborhood was in shock, and the police focused on the investigation, but there was no progress. One day, while I was taking a rest at home, I heard a voice outside. "Please, open the door." When I heard that voice, I was walking over to the door and opening it before I knew it. It felt like an order I couldn't resist. In front of the door, there was a man dressed up with eyeball-shaped earrings, necklaces, and rings, and he was staring at me with his eyes wide open. I was startled, and at the same time, a tingling sensation ran through my brain and spine. Then suddenly, I became completely exhausted and started to be in a semi-conscious condition. He then said, "Please don't stare back at my face for a long time. Roll your eyes back." Then my pupils started to go up. I was so startled that I tried to look down, but it didn't work. It seemed to be out of my will. I screamed. Then he said, "Please don't make a sound," and my voice suddenly did not come out. I was standing there with an upward glance, feeling great pain. Even though I had my pupils upwards to the extent where I couldn't roll my eyes further, he kept saying, "More. Roll your eyes more, please." Tears flowed like a waterfall as I felt tremendous pain, as if my pupils were being ripped off. I barely begged him for help in a shrill voice. He said, "Are you still able to talk? If so, bite your tongue, please." Then suddenly I was biting my tongue with my teeth. I tried to open my mouth with all my might, but it didn't work. I felt great pain. Only then did I realize how the martial artist had died. He said, "Now bite your tongue until it cuts off." Suddenly, someone shouted from behind, "Hands up!" It turned out that the police had been patrolling the neighborhood and had followed after a suspicious-looking man. The moment I heard his voice, the numbness of my body wore off. The man turned around and looked at the police and said, "Please drop the gun." Then the police dropped the gun he was holding onto the floor. He didn't pick up the gun and stood still with an idiotic expression on his face. At that very moment, I attacked the man from behind and put a headlock on him. But when he said, "Your arm is getting weak," he smoothly slipped away as my arm weakened, and I was perplexed. He pointed at me and said to the officer, "Point your gun at this man." Then the police picked up the gun and pointed it at me. The man said to the police, "If he moves, the trigger will be pulled," and quietly disappeared. I couldn't move, and the police stood still for a long time, his body stiff. After the man had completely disappeared, the police dropped his gun and collapsed onto the floor, devastated. We couldn't believe what we'd been through, and since then, the police devoted all of their energy to catch the enigmatic man. And after a while, I heard news that the man had been caught. It turned out that the man had the ability to hypnotize people in 1 second. He had used that technique to play with people like toys. It turned out that there were hundreds of other people who had been harassed by him, but no one could report it because he had hypnotized them so that they could not report it to the police. Instead of sending him to prison, the government reportedly took him to use him for special tasks. No one knows what particular mission he is used for. But since he is such a dangerous person, whenever even high-ranking government officials meet him, they are reportedly accompanied by dozens of special forces.